She'll come through. On a very important day to Russ, to Ron, to Dusty who put it together, the ambulance committee that are here today, and everyone who's remembering the service of Australian personnel back 100 years when the guns finally fell silent in World War I, just an hour ago, and 100 years ago, of course, today. Remembering is an unusual concept. 100 years ago, young Australians were driven by a sense of duty that probably no longer exists anymore. Duty is an unfashionable value. We're now in a world of rights, more so than obligations, but remembering that many young Australians served almost invisibly amongst hundreds of thousands of casualties, not knowing ever their enemy, often not even the purpose. They gave their lives not knowing who they served, nor who they were attempting to preserve a future for, apart from immediate family. But there's a Redland connection today. Back in 1964, in the middle of the night in Vietnam, Australia lost its first service person, and he was from Wellington Point. His name was Kevin Conway, serving with the Australian Army, training team volunteers, deep in the jungle of Vietnam in '64 when we were not officially at war. An unexpected group of Viet Cong came into their settlement, attacked them in the middle of the night, and the few Australians in that group didn't realise that many of the Vietnamese they were training were in fact Viet Cong. In the middle of this fighting, as Conway fought to calm everyone, he identified someone in the mortar trench had been killed. He ran forward, giving instructions calmly, took over the mortar pit, and had two choices as the Viet Cong closed in on him: use his firearm to protect his own personal safety, or to keep firing that mortar that was deploying parachute flares for the benefit of the battle and the defence of his men. And thankfully Conway chose the latter. But in so doing he gave his life. He actually fell onto an American and saved their life as he was mortally injured. The American, ironically, from Special Services was given the Medal of Honour. Conway was given Vietnam's order, the Iron Cross with palm, without consulting with the Australians, but he was never ever nominated for a Victoria Cross. That changes this year, posthumously, over 50 years later, Conway having been interred and reburied 4 times, first in Vietnam, dug up by American Secret Service agents, moved to Singapore, then relocated again in Singapore, finally brought home in 2016, lies to rest with his family in Cleveland. He's not only the first Australian casualty from Vietnam, but he's a story of incredible bravery that's yet to be told. So we're hoping that the Australian services will consider posthumous Medal of Gallantry for this man, and he's one of us. We won't forget Conway and what he did. He was serving on his own without any other Australians around him. And that's why the story's never been told, nor we forget the service of other service personnel, emergency service workers now we recognise, peacekeepers, Kiaps in Papua New Guinea, and finally, Redland's very own land army. Young women who tended our farms while the men went off to war. They kept the food supplies being planted and picked through the war, and next year we'll have the first ever memorial for Australia's land army. They were Redland women. And I think it deserves a round of applause. We're finally recognising the role of women who self-evidently kept the farms producing, without which we couldn't have had an army that was serving. It's been great to be on the island. Dusty, thank you very much. Russ as well for having us as well. And Ron for allowing me to speak. It's been great here at Pub Paradise. Thanks again. Thank you.